Hello, all the awesome students on YouTube. Welcome to Rational Classes. Starting from this video, we will create a series of videos for class 11 physics. Now, we have observed that for most students, the difficult thing in physics is to apply the basic concepts to problems. They get confused on how to approach the problem, how to utilize their theory, how to apply their problem solving skills to a problem. In our videos, we will discuss these concepts and theories in such a way that you students do not find any difficulty in solving those problems. After watching our videos, if you have any doubt or any problem, you can send a message to our Facebook page and we will solve the problems for free and we'll send them back to you. Link of the page will be given in the description. Now let's move on to our class. Today we'll learn about units and measurement of class 11 physics. In this video, we will discuss about units, why they are necessary, how they are defined, and we'll learn about how measurement of length, mass, and time are taken. Our first topic of discussion is units and why we need them. It is not easy to understand the importance of units from their definition. So let's consider a line. Now, how do we describe this line to another person? We can say that it is a small line. Now, if we draw another line, we can see that this one is longer than the previous one. So this line is a longer line. You can draw another one. You can see that this is much longer than the other two lines. Now, you can describe this line to another person as a long line, a small line, a longer line. But does it give any exact idea to that person? No. Now, if you're doing important things like measuring distance from one place to another, you can't say they're very far away. You can't say that Guwahati and Delhi are very far away. You can say that Delhi and Mumbai are very far away. You're using very far away for both the things, but the distance are not same. So you need to be able to say exactly how long is that. To describe that exactly, we need units. Let's consider that this line is 5 centimeter long. Let's assume that this is 5 centimeter long. Now we don't know what a centimeter is, but this is 5 centimeter long. Now let's draw another line. By comparing, we see that this one is 6.25 centimeter. If we draw another line, you can see that this one is 10 centimeter long. Now we are getting an exact value of how long the line is. The first one is 5 centimeter, the next one is 6.25, and the last one is 10. So if I say to another person that draw a 20 centimeter long line, he will not be thinking about how long or how short is that. He knows exactly how much 10 centimeter is or 20 centimeter is. So that's why we need units to be able to describe exactly. Now, units can be defined as the names of the quantities of measurement. For example, if you're measuring time, you can measure it in terms of minutes. You can measure it in terms of hours. So these names that we assign, these names that minutes, hours, etc. are units. For example, another example is temperature. You can measure temperature in Celsius, Fahrenheit, or Kelvin. All these names, Celsius, Fahrenheit, Kelvin, etc. are units. So units are basically names that we assign to any measurable quantity. To be able to function properly, units need to be same for everyone. Now let's assume that you are going to a cloth shop and asking the shopkeeper for a piece of cloth that is 2 meter by 1 meter. Now if 1 meter for you is not same as 1 meter for him, then will these units be any useful? No, because even if you are using an unit, it is not same for both of you. It's same as saying give me a big piece of cloth because he will make the error anyways. Therefore, we need exact same definitions for everyone. But the problem is there are too many quantities in physics. You cannot define every one of them. So what scientists have done is they have studied those units and they have found that they are mainly of two types: independent and dependent. Now, independent units, like the name suggests, do not depend on any other quantity, but dependent units depend on other quantities, other factors, other parameters, etc. Let's take an example of independent unit. One independent unit is time. It is not dependent on any other factor or parameter. It is constant. Another one is mass, then length, then electric current, then luminosity, temperature, and amount of substance. These 7 quantities are not dependent on any other. Now let's consider some dependent quantities. Quantities like velocity, they are dependent on displacement and time. Force, that is dependent on mass and acceleration. Then electric resistance, power, kinetic energy, electric flux, and potential energy, dipole moment, torque, stress, strain, fluid pressure head, etc. And there are many more. Let's look into how dependent quantities can be written in terms of independent quantities. Let's consider velocity first. Velocity can be written as displacement by time. We all know that. Now, displacement or distance can be written in terms of length, that is the third independent quantity in our list, and time. You can see that both of these units are independent, but velocity itself is dependent. Let's consider another one, force. From Newton's second law of motion, you know that force is equal to mass into acceleration. Here mass is independent, but acceleration is not independent. Can acceleration be expressed in terms of independent quantities? Yes, acceleration is change in velocity per unit time. So we can write it as mass into velocity by time. Now again, velocity is a dependent quantity, but we can describe it in terms of independent. That becomes mass into distance per time square. Another example is electric resistance. Now I suggest that your students open your copies and do this one with me, because it will be hard to understand if you just watch the video. I hope you are ready with your copies. We can write resistance as voltage by current. You can see from the list that current is an independent quantity, but voltage is not. Now, how is voltage defined? Voltage is defined as energy per unit charge in an electric field. So mathematically, we write voltage as energy by charge, and we had already divided it by current. Now, both energy and charge are dependent quantities. So how do we break them down? We can write energy as force into distance divided by charge, and we can write charge as current into time. Now this whole of it is divided by current. Now we can take current from inside bracket and outside bracket and make it current square in the denominator. And we can write force as, from the second example that is above it, we can write force as mass into distance per time square, multiply it with the distance for energy, and divide it by current square into time. Now you can see that in this expression, all these quantities are independent. Therefore, resistance, which was a dependent quantity, can be expressed in terms of independent quantities. Like this, any other physical quantity, any other physical parameter can be expressed in terms of these 7 independent quantities. Therefore, scientists do not need to define all of these quantities. They just need to define these 7 independent quantities. You have seen that in many cases, there may be more than one units for the same quantity. For example, mass can be expressed as kilograms or pounds. Time can be expressed as minutes or seconds or hours. Temperature can be expressed as Kelvin or Celsius or Fahrenheit. Now, if one scientist is using mass, in terms of kilogram and another scientist is using mass in terms of pounds, it becomes hard for them to work together. To solve this problem, a system of units has been universally accepted, which is used everywhere. This system of units is called SI unit. Now let's discuss about the 7 base quantities and their SI units and the definition of those units. The first quantity is length, its SI unit is meter, and this unit meter is defined through the speed of light, which is constant at all times. The second quantity is mass, whose SI unit is kilogram and is defined with the help of Planck's constant, which is set to a constant value. Know that the definition of mass was based on a physical object till the last year. Only in November or December 2019 it was changed to this constant. Like I told earlier, it is not advisable to base the definition of any base quantity on a physical object. This is because if we are taking any physical object, its density, its other physical properties may change with time, and those things may change the mass of the object too. It can wear off, it can lose some particles, etc. So this is not very accurate. With such a definition, you can measure milligrams, micrograms, etc. The next unit is time. Now time is defined through hyperfine transition frequency of cesium-133 atom. Now hyperfine transition frequency is a very detailed topic that you will find it very difficult to understand now, but it will be worth to understand that hyperfine transition is something that does not change easily. This is more constant than even atomic oscillations. And the SI unit of time is second, as you know. The next quantity is electric current. Its SI unit is ampere, and it is defined with the help of the charge of electron. This is the electron. The charge of electron is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. So the current is defined with the help of this charge, and the SI unit of current is ampere. The next quantity is thermodynamic temperature, whose SI unit is Kelvin. Now it is defined with the help of Boltzmann constant K. Actually, this was not defined by Boltzmann constant K till last November. Around the same time that mass came to be defined through Planck's constant, this change in Planck's constant also gave us a change in K. So when we fixed H, we also got a fixed value of K. Based on this value of K, now scientists are defining the thermodynamic temperature in Kelvin. The amount of substance is the next quantity, and its SI unit is mole. And 1 mole of a substance is this number 6.022 into 10 to the power 23. This is also known as Avogadro's number Na. The next quantity is luminous intensity. Its SI unit is candela. This is very rarely used in higher secondary physics, so that's not very important. Let's move on to the next topic. Next up is non-conventional methods of measurement. Now, what do we mean by conventional and non-conventional methods? This is not discussed in NCERT book, but this is just for your knowledge. When you're measuring the length of, suppose, a book or something, you can use a scale for it. You have meter scale, centimeter scale, etc. When you're measuring the thickness of a sheet of metal, you can use screw gauge or micrometer, etc. These measurements are taken by directly using a tool or a device for measurement. Now we can say that these are direct methods of measurement. We have to measure the mass of the earth. How do we measure it? We can't put the earth on a weight scale. So the non-conventional methods of measurement are those methods that do not directly use any scale or any device. Let's check out the first type of non-conventional method. It is using various formula. Like explained earlier, the mass of the earth is measured using Newton's formula for acceleration due to gravity. Now, I hope you guys are aware of the formula of acceleration due to gravity. It is given by G equal to Gm by r square. Here small g is the acceleration due to gravity. Here capital G is the gravitational constant. Here m is the mass of the earth and r is the radius of the earth. Now we can shuffle this equation to find that m, that is mass of the earth, is equal to acceleration due to gravity into radius square divided by the universal gravitational constant. Now acceleration due to gravity can be found out experimentally. The radius of earth can be found out by other astronomical methods. So if we know g, small g and r, the value of capital G is known to us, we can find out the mass of the earth. So similarly, using other formula, we can find other things. This type of measurement doesn't require any scale or any meter or something like that. The next type of non-conventional method is using sophisticated machines like sonar. Then other sophisticated machines include telescopes using Doppler shift. One of the most famous telescopes of the history of mankind is the Hubble telescope. And the Hubble telescope has discovered many planets, many other solar systems, and it also has correctly determined their positions, their velocities relative to us. How does the Hubble telescope do that? We are using sophisticated computing technologies like calculating Doppler shift, etc. In the next video, we will discuss another non-conventional method of measurement that is important from the exam point of view. That topic is parallax method. We will discuss it in detail in the next video. Again, if you are having any doubts, please check out our Facebook page and post us your questions and we'll solve them for you for free. Thank you for watching.